Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Dean Jean. Dean Jean. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Hello, America, and welcome to the #1 radio station in all of Fort Myers Beach. Beach Talk Radio. Here are your hosts, Kim and Ed Ryan.
And a good Monday evening to everyone out there. Welcome to episode number 46 of Mondays with the Mayor. And this will be our final remote show before we move the show to Wahoo Willie's next Sunday at 11 o'clock, and it will be brunch with the Mayor. And before we bring the Mayor on for a list of long and painful questions that we plan to put to him, we want to thank, once again, if you watched our Facebook page just a few minutes ago, you saw, it's going to be hard to see in the light. What? I didn't mean to put it in front of your face like that.
You need to start with it.
We're going to start with it. I said, we're going to start with this. We want to thank Elena Saracita for sending us these nice 3 sand dollars. And I posted her letter on our Facebook page that you can see. Very nice letter. And you guys are right on top of that. There's like 160 comments in the first 1 hour. How many? Yeah, 155 comments in the first 1 hour that we put it up there. And her Etsy page is in the top of the Facebook page. It's etsy.com/shop. I've never been on Etsy until today, /the shop and mermaid. So we hope that you'll go on there, not because she sent us a nice letter, but because we love to help local businesses succeed. And these are really awesome tree ornaments. One has our logo on it. Another one has the clock on it and the poinsettia tree, which is very cool. Anything you want to say, or are you just going to be silent through the whole show?
Oh, right. If I can get a word in edgewise. I mean, they're really, really lovely. All 3 of them. I mean, the fact that someone took the time to do the specific Beach Talk Radio News one is very special. And we're looking forward to hanging them on our tree. I actually feel like I lost some of I don't know where all of our ornaments are, but we're working. Our tree kind of
slanting sideways. So
yeah, he doesn't have the patience to put it in straight. So it tipped over, but that's okay. It's beautiful.
It is. It's just a tree, dear. It's just a tree. So I think the way this first came up is, I don't know, somebody actually posted something somewhere saying, where can I find these, or where can I get these? Because obviously the businesses aren't there right now. And then we got these in the mail. So hopefully you guys will, you purchase some of them. The others have posted they have them already, and they bought them in previous years. So that was pretty cool of Elena to do. So thank you very much. And
it's out of Branford, Connecticut.
All right.
The Sailor and the Mermaid.
We want to let you know that the show is sponsored in part tonight by Sylvester Companies. And Sylvester Companies, who's been working, because the mistake that I made last week, I'm making sure I don't make this week. Like we were supposed to have 3 sponsors last week, and I totally forgot to put Sylvester on the list there. So I'm reading it now again, and this is a free one for the one I messed up last week. So I want to cover my problem, my mistake last night. It's SylvesterCompaniesInc.com. You can check out their Facebook page also. And Paul Sylvester has really been doing a lot on Fort Myers Beach. He's sitting in his car right now waiting for you to call him on his cell phone, and that is 989-239-5538. Or you can email propertyinspection@hotmail.com. That's propertyinspection@hotmail.com. And I'll let you know a little secret. When we had that whole debacle with the gift cards at Rose's place, when Walmart wouldn't make things right, Paul just went up there with a bunch of cards and gave them to her out of the blue and said, don't tell anybody. So she didn't. I did. So thank you to Paul and Sylvester for being a sponsor of the show.
Thank you, Diane.
And there he is, back from Minnesota and ready to roll, and fresh off a town council meeting today is Mayor Dan Allers. Dan, it's good to have you back. Appreciate your time, and it's going to be a crazy week on Fort Myers Beach.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be busy. Thanks to Vice Mayor Adderholt for filling in for me last week, and to all the people that reached out for my grandmother. She was a strong lady, so I appreciate it all.
Now, tomorrow is the first of many events going on at the beach. The beach school ribbon cutting is at 9 o'clock. The official ribbon cutting is at 9 o'clock, and the kids are going to walk over from Bayside, not Bayside, I get it confused, Bay Oaks, and hopefully there'll be a big crowd of locals to cheer them on as they get back into the school for the first time since Hurricane Ian. How big of a milestone do you think that is for the beach?
Well, I've said all along that you can't have a community without a school, and that school's been around a long time. Anybody that's ever been over there and has been able to walk around and see just the names in the concrete and how far that goes back with the people, it's pretty powerful. And then to see the community for such a small school, the amount of parents that stood up, and obviously all the council was behind them, and the businesses on the beach were behind them, and to make the fight, bring the fight to the school board to keep that school. It was no secret that there was rumors of trying to dissolve that school, long before the storm. So it was nice to see everybody come out and fight. And, again, Vice Mayor Adderholt was on the ad hoc committee, or is on the ad hoc committee, and has been working very hard with Jackie Lezek from the chamber and Monica and all the other parents, John Costas, all the people that he mentioned today in the meeting, to keep that school. So tomorrow is going to be a very proud day, I think, for our island.
And so the kids are going to go in one area, and then there's a plan for as enrollment increases, and they're going to do a different kind of build out. Is that how it was working?
Yeah, we have to, continue to get enrollment to increase over the next couple of years, to be able to have the school board continue to manage and handle the school. Otherwise, the town has options that it can step in and do some things. But if we play our cards right and we work as hard as we've continued to work in the past year and a half, I think it won't be an issue. We'll be able to meet those goals. We can work with the businesses that are coming online to try to help bring that enrollment in, get some people off the island onto the island. So as of right now, I think we're trending in the right direction. We're not out of the woods by any means yet, but I think that we've shown that this community is pretty resilient, pretty strong, and we'll do what we have to do to make sure we meet these goals.
And they had an open house, or they might be still at the open house tonight. So I think the kids and the parents are getting their first opportunity to go in the school. Saw some pictures. I mean, a fresh coat of paint does an amazing thing for any building, and that bright blue building really looks cool down there.
Well, I don't know if you had a chance to see inside the building. I did after the storm, and it was much more than a fresh coat of paint, but it certainly looks nice. I'm so glad that we were able to keep that school. Just the history of the building itself is pretty impressive, and the kids being able to get back on the island and not have to be bussed off the island. I mean, that you forget that we go through so much stuff. The kids, our kids and our pets also went through the same storm, and the pets can't speak, but the kids can, and they've been very, very strong and very, very tough over the last 15 months. So I'm excited for them to get back close to home.
And just last thought on that, there is going to be a few speakers at 9 o'clock when they cut the ribbon. So if you're not in town and you want to watch it, we'll carry that live, like many of the events down there. So that starts at 9 o'clock, and you can watch it on our Facebook page or our YouTube page. So another big milestone for the beach. So,
and I apologize. I'm going to probably have to duck out before the ribbon cutting. Something came up that now needs my attention, so I won't be able to be there for that. But I have no doubt that Vice Mayor Adderholt and the other council members will be there to take over. So I appreciate that, and I apologize if I'm not going to be able to be there.
Well, we can skip right to that while you're not going to be there and come back to the other questions from the meeting. But you're going to the Lee County Board meeting tomorrow, from what I understand, because there's an issue with the financing of the lights on Estero Boulevard. So can you get everyone up to date on that?
Yeah, obviously everybody knows we've been working pretty hard with the state to try to come up with the appropriations, and it was granted through FDEM that we would get the money needed for the entire island to be illuminated with not only FDOT but environmental friendly lights. So it meets both the buckets that we wanted to make sure we met to be safe and also be environmentally friendly. And that appropriation request was granted. There was some confusion, or I guess I can't really say as to how the money ended up going through the county to come down to us, but it was our understanding that the money would go directly through the county. Once they received the money, it would then filter through to us and then go directly to FPL. That seems to have changed. The wording that came down with the funding, I can see to the point of the county. I could see where they could potentially look at that as a reimbursement wording. There's one section of the contract that said it is a one lump sum funding source, and then a couple lines down, it makes reference to having to show stuff to get. They don't use the word reimburse, but show to send things in to get money back. They don't use the word reimburse. I don't remember off the top of the head the exact word that they use, but and then when the county drafted their contract or sub contract that will be to the town of Fort Myers Beach, it's very strongly worded as reimbursed. Essentially, the long and short of it is we would have to come up with about $1.8 million to start this project, to then reimburse, then to submit to the county for reimbursement, to get that to do the second part of it. There's four payments within the contract that we have with FPL. So we would essentially be carrying that $1.7 to $1.9 million for a period of a year or however long, a little longer than that it takes. And quite frankly, the town's not in a position to do that. So I've been working with Representative Botana in his office, and Lee County, and Mr. Harner, and as of now, I don't think anything has changed. So I plan on being there tomorrow to express our opposition to that contract, because although we want this to get done, we want it to get done not just for the town of Fort Myers Beach, but also for the Lee County residents that come here, as well as the visitors. It's not just about a Fort Myers Beach thing, and how we got here is not as important as where we're going. And the longer we delay this, the more into season we get, and the darker, the Times Square area and that part of Estero Boulevard is. So we certainly don't want that to happen. So I will go tomorrow and voice my opposition to the way the contract is written. But again, I understand how the lawyers and the staff from Lee County came to what they feel is their interpretation, and they have reached out to get clarification on the contract from FDEM. I have not heard back if they've gotten anything from FDEM yet, and I have not heard back from Representative Botana's office yet as to if they've had a chance to talk with the county. So I plan on being there tomorrow for their meeting to at least voice that, this is not something the town can do or is prepared to do.
So this was all news to me, because I can't sit by and listen to everything. But the money, so is the money in the hands of the county?
I don't know that it's officially in the county, but the money is there. It has been appropriated. The letter, we've all seen the letter. The money is specifically for this project, and this project only. It can't be spent on anything else. Now it's just a matter of how that funding will get allocated.
I mean, couldn't the money just go straight from
because that would be too easy
to FPL? Like, that
would be common sense.
Well, that's we had talked about that in the past. Can this be something that can go directly to FPL and leave the middleman? For whatever reason, the contract came down the way it did. The funding went to the county. This is not a blame against the county. This is nothing against the county, other than the way that the contract is written, the sub-recipient contract is written. It's just not something that's feasible for the town. So hopefully,
the road is a county road. So I mean, it does make sense, I guess, to me that the money would go to them. But if it's there, why should you guys have to front the money? Well,
and that's part of the argument is hopefully that we don't have to. If this does indeed, if it is a one lump sum, and then, like I said, according to the FDEM contract, to me, and I'm not a lawyer by any stretch of the imagination, but just in reading the funding part of the contract, the first line said it was a one lump sum, and then 2 lines down there was some reference to a reimbursement without using the word reimbursement. So I can understand how they, again, how it was interpreted, and this is nothing against the county, but I think that we need to be there to at least, once you approve something and then having to go back and change it again, that just delays everything. So the worst case scenario, if we have to delay this a little bit or table this vote till we can get the answers that we need, another 2 weeks or whatever the schedule is for their meetings, I think it's better than having to do.
Let me ask you this. So tomorrow at the county board meeting, are they expected to approve this the way it is? Like they're expecting to approve it, which includes the confusing part, or is there a chance they could table it until they unconfuse it?
I don't know. quite honestly, Ed. I think that there's the way the packet reads, or at least the way I read their packet, is the staff is asking for approval of the contract in which it's written now, and that's what I'll be speaking to. I just think that if we don't have the answers by the time the meeting happens tomorrow from FDEM, then I think that tabling it would be in the best interest of everybody.
Sure.
So we can get the answer as opposed to approving something that has to then be undone and redo again. So that'll be my pitch to them. And again, this is nothing against the county. This is the way the money has filtered down from the state.
Right.
Is
So
why
what
we're
does-
where we're at.
What does your attorney Becky say? What does Becky say about what is her conclusion about the wording?
I haven't had a chance to speak to her about it. We got this pretty late, so it was. I haven't had a chance to talk to her as to what her. But quite honestly, what she thinks isn't important. I mean, this is coming through the county. The funding's coming through the county. It's their attorneys that have to review it. It's their attorneys that have to make the interpretation of what they read in that letter, and then move forward with what they feel is in the best interest. And so I completely understand why they're doing it the way that they're doing it, but it doesn't do us any favors at all.
Okay, and then lastly on this, let's say it is what it is, that FDEM wants you to spend the money and then they'll reimburse you, which really, it seems like that is usually the way things are done with the state, right? You spend the money somehow and then they reimburse you. But let's say that
that has not been our understanding from FDEM,
Right.
from Director Guthrie, that's not been anybody's understanding, but for some reason that's where we're at. I have not, again, had a chance to speak with Representative Botana tonight to find out if he was able to get any answers from FDEM, from their legal staff, to find out.
Right. I didn't mean to backtrack, but my question is, let's say it does turn out to be that way. How does the town get around that? I mean, you don't have that money.
Well, we'll have to cross that bridge when we do. But at the end of the day, this is something that we've been working on long before the storm. The storm has provided an opportunity where we were able to get the appropriations to come through the state to make this happen. It could put an end to a very long discussion for something that, quite frankly, I think all of us are tired of talking about.
Yeah.
And to be caught up on something like this and maybe potentially holding it up a little bit longer is unfortunate, but we'll see where it goes tomorrow.
All right. We'll move on to
All right. Yes.
the big topic today.
Is this the big topic today?
I thought it was.
Can you talk about oh dear. Did you get sick on the plane? Or is this lingering from your past?
It's just a light cough. It's nothing that's
Okay.
it's nothing contagious. For some reason it doesn't go away.
Don't be coughing your COVID into my screen there, man. I've been catching that.
It's screen.
You had to drop the S word. You said you went all day and didn't use the
I didn't
curse
say
word.
the S word.
No.
I said screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said.
Yeah,
Never
you
mind.
accuse me of cursing. That's not my best behavior.
So where are you trying to go with the canal dredging?
Well, as it was stated today, back in the early 2000s, there was a discussion about trying to implement a canal dredging thing that the town manages, and it never really went anywhere and it stalled out. Had that gone somewhere, we would have been able to get FEMA assistance and reimbursement to get the canals dredged. Some of these canals are so, I mean, we own a pontoon, and there's sometimes our canal, you can't, even in a pontoon, we can't get it off the dock. So, we have an issue with dredging. Laguna Shores is another one. Remember before the storm, we had worked at, so it's something that I think we should at least look at. It's something that I think we should propose, at least get our name into the hat that we want to discuss this, let them know that we want to discuss this, and then we can bring it forward and let the community talk about it. Do they want it? Do they not want it?
Okay, well, I think we jumped ahead.
Yeah.
We're going to need to explain. There's a chance that the town could move forward with some kind of assessment on canal property owners, where there's an annual assessment to keep the canals clean. And they, before people think it's just going to be, you wake up January 1st and there's going to be a tax bill in your mailbox. It's way more complicated than that. There'd be public input, public comment. You get a chance to voice your opinion, but eventually this could be a plan to keep the canals clean over the long run.
There's a process, and Keith Wilkins did a great job for us in researching this and doing a lot of homework and doing a lot of talking to people. And essentially, it's a non-binding resolution that we can pass to let the tax assessors know that this is something that we're looking at doing. It doesn't assess any taxes. It doesn't do any, it's way down the road. This is just letting them know that we're discussing it and we want to get public input to find out, is this something, those that live on a canal, those that live in a navigable waterway area, is this something that they're willing to pay for to have it continually maintained? Should we unfortunately ever have another storm, being in a program or showing FEMA that we have a plan in place, that we've been maintaining the canals with a plan, that opens up the doors for us to get reimbursement should this ever happen again, plus the grants and all the other funding that you can go after. But without sending this letter of intent saying that you at least want to have the conversation, you can't do anything.
So how
except
does
pay
it work
for
now?
yourself.
Does
There is
the
none.
so
It don't get
the
dredged.
canals never get dredged? They've never
Nope.
been dredged.
Well, Dan,
Well,
how deep?
unless they've privately been done, unless
Right.
they,
So
people
it would
that live on the
have to
canal
be
pull
mhm.
up and get it done. But there's been
Okay.
no, as far as I know, there's never been a dredging program in place on Fort Myers Beach, even before incorporation, to dredge the canals. This conversation would be about doing specifically that the town would have contracts with people to be able to keep the canals dredged to 5 feet, 7.5 feet, whatever the footage is. But that's all the discussions that would happen. A resolution that we're talking about moving forward would be to just say we want to have these discussions with the tax collector. That is it. There would be no, there's so many things that would have to happen after that before anything could ever be assessed. It is just to let them know that we want to have the conversations to look at the program.
And for Laguna Shores, the one you mentioned, for the longest time, the town was doing a 50% deal with Laguna Shores. They were paying 50%. The town was kicking in 50%. I mean, that's a whole different thing. I mean, that's not.
Well, I don't think it was a long time. I think it had happened one
time.
other time
Okay.
before that the town had did that, and then we had entered into an agreement with them to do that, and then obviously the storm hit. So
Yeah.
you know, the Laguna Shores people, their money was refunded, and now we're back to, you know, it's not just Laguna Shores, it's every canal on the island.
Yeah.
So I think it's a beneficial thing to at least talk about.
Yeah.
And if it works out that everybody thinks it's okay, then you figure out what the dollar amount is, then you figure out what the assessment is, and you go from there. And then there's all kinds of public meetings and time for people to come in and say they love it, they hate it. And then the council at the time, if it's this council or another council, will have the opportunity to make that decision on whether or not they want to put together a special assessment.
So when the state and the feds or whoever cleaned up all the debris from Hurricane Ian went into those canals, did they actually dredge them all? I mean, are they all?
I don't think they went into the canals.
Yeah, they
Nothing?
went in the canals, but only to clean up the debris. They didn't go in there to do any dredging. It was just to clean up the canals.
Gotcha. So the other thing is this could become like, if you ever get down to that point where it's almost like the easements on the beach, like you got 4 or 5 people on a canal that want to do it and this other person doesn't want to do it, then what do you do? I mean, he gets it for free.
Well, no, I think this is a
All or
nothing.
nothing.
well, and again, we don't know. We're still early into this. This is all things that would have to get worked out. Is it everybody has to participate, or nobody does, or could it be just some canals and not? These are things that we do not know. But
Gotcha.
without at least saying we want to talk about it and doing a resolution saying that we want to talk about it, there's no going forward with it.
Gotcha.
Do you know any other communities that have canals that like is
I
this?
believe Sanibel has a program in place to do this already. If I'm not mistaken, I think that they have a similar program in place where people that benefit from having a canals dredge have an assessment. But don't quote me on that. But I believe there is.
And Keith mentioned a different county today too that he said. I don't remember which one it was. But yeah,
You know,
what are there, like 30 canals on Fort Myers Beach? I mean, it's crazy. There's a lot.
There's a lot. I think there's more than 30, and I think a couple are privately owned. So these are all things that have to be worked out. I know that they're working on trying to come up with a figure as to what it would be. And what I'm learning is if you go 5 feet, it's a certain dollar amount. If you go to 7.5 feet, it's a much greater amount. So depending on what you want the depth of the canals to be, will really regulate what the cost would be.
And by the way, how did you get Keith Wilk? That dude fell in love with this community. He keeps doing free work for you. I mean, every once in a while he pops back up and he's doing all this pro bono work. What's that all about?
Yeah, he came down. Well, he was down here looking at boats. Don't let him fool you. He was.
Oh, I
he-
see.
He was looking at a few boats on the other coast, and then he was over here looking at a boat, and then he's working his way back up to Pensacola looking at boats over the next couple of days. So
Nice. Good for him.
Yeah, he was down here. He does love it. He's been out. He's always said he's loved it down here, and he was using the excuse. I tell him it's an excuse, but the boats are better down here. They don't beat on them as much as they do up in Pensacola. Yeah, you just want to come down.
Yeah,
he loves the tiki bar. He just loves that place. He does. He loves the tiki bar.
Well, one of the decisions that he made, and I don't want to give it all away because I have it in the newsletter tomorrow, but in February when he was the interim town manager, I think he was biking down Estero Boulevard, and he took a picture of every single one of those street signs that the volunteers painted and put up. He's got 73 or 75 pictures, great looking pictures of all those signs. He didn't go down all the side streets where there were other signs. And he got together with Ellie at the Historical Society, and they made a presentation today that we've got a story about in the newsletter tomorrow, which, I mean, I doubt anyone else did that, Dan, like took a picture of maybe somebody did, but it was really something that people are going to really appreciate when they see what the products of those signs are going to be and how they're going to help the Historical Society. It really was a cool thing to do.
Yeah, I don't think it could have gone to a better community partner than those guys, because as you heard today, they had some reserves and they spent those. And if anybody's seen the rendering of the building that they want to do, it's beautiful. So I think that Keith is an outdoorsy guy. I mean, he's a surfer. He's he always rode his bike when he was here, and he as much as he says he's not creative, he's very creative. So he and Megan were talking one day about these pictures and how they, Megan loves books, and she loves books about the history, especially Fort Myers Beach. So she reads those books. So they had talks about, well, we could write a book about these signs and the history of the streets. And that's kind of how it started. And then it just, Keith came up with this idea somehow of these coasters and the posters. And when you see them, they're really magnificent. I was kind of like, are they going to be the ones if you go to have a cocktail and they give you those little plastic flimsy ones, they're not plastic, but the little cardboardy flimsy one. These are actually really nice with a cork. And I think that they're really going to take off. People are going to really like them. People are going to want to have a collection of every street. People are obviously going to want the ones on their street. And I hope it raises the $50,000 that they spent to replenish their coffers. And I think that it'd be great. And Keith is a great guy. And I don't remember the name of the person that donated the material and the time to print them. But hopefully we keep them very busy.
And I call Ellie. I talked to her after the presentation. I was like, we got to get to the farmer's market. I'll get with Linda at the farmer's market. We'll get a tent together. She's got a book coming out about the history of the storm, and she's got the Afghans that they're trying to sell. I mean, she really puts in a lot of time at that Historical Society, and she's such a good person, and all those things are going to sell. So if we could get together at the farmer's market, that would really be a great way to get those products out there. But it really was a great idea that they came up with. And like you said, not only did Keith donate his time, he got his printer friend to donate all the work that he put into it, which, when there's zero expenses, that's 100% profit for the 501c3, which is cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with as far as a cost and a price point, and hopefully, Ed, you guys will work with them and help spread the word and sell as many as they can, so that they can replenish that money. Because if anybody didn't have a chance to go into that building, it was a really neat place to go into and see the art and see the history, and it was a really cool place. So hopefully we can get them going in the right direction.
All right.
So as Ed was saying at the beginning, lots of big things going on at the beach this week and in the next couple of weeks. What does the opening of Margaritaville mean to the beach and to the town?
Well, it means it means a lot more than it did before the storm, right? I mean, it meant a lot before the storm. Now it means even more, and it's a long journey that the TPI people and John Dammerman and Tom Torgerson and not just those guys, but their families have had to endure, a massive amount of things that most people wouldn't have done. And the fact that they stuck it out and went through COVID and went through lawsuits and a hurricane and they're sorry, there's a bug flying, and are now to the point where they actually get to cut a ribbon and see people, coming in, and hopefully get to see the till going the other direction instead of keep going, out and out and out. And then just there was a big water pipe that blew the other day. So it's, it just seems like everything is gone against them, and yet they've kept fighting. And I think it shows a true showing of what this community, they're part of this community, and it shows what this community is about and what they're about. And to see the doors open and to see people enjoying that, and I can tell you all the businesses around are excited. All the residents that I've talked to are excited. It's just going to be that new, fresh something that after the storm, at a large magnitude, that we don't have right now. So it certainly means a lot to this community. I think it means a lot to Lee County in general. But I think it means the most to the people that have worked so hard on the TPI side of this to get this across the finish line, between the council meetings and the input and the back and forth and the COVID. And it's just all those things that you finally are going to get to see it come to fruition. It's going to be an exciting day.
And 254 hotel rooms come online on the beach, which is going to be nice for folks.
It certainly will help, having that on the, not to be greedy, but to have that on the tax roll before the first of the year, it will certainly be a help to our community. It'll be a help to, I would assume, to them to be able to get open. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the New Year's Eve thing that they're going to have there. I mean, to be able to see the fireworks from the Sunset Terrace is going to be pretty impressive. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to ask how the sales are going or if they're booked or not booked, but I think as it gets open and you start seeing a lot of social media presence of people sharing pictures of all the different places and all the different things, I think it's gonna drive that buzz. It's gonna, we see it every weekend. You guys see it every weekend. There's people coming. That beach is full every weekend. That beach is full, and I think as we get through the holidays here, and just like any other year, I think you're going to see that beach even fuller, if that's the proper English. Not just on the weekends, but every single day.
It was so funny on Saturday when I was showing somebody where we're going to be setting up the show for this coming Saturday. We're walking around and 4 ladies just wandered up off the street, up the stairs. And, hey, is there a bar open up here? Yeah, I mean, people are already going up there. And, poor David, I'm sure he hasn't had any sleep in a week. He's being polite to everybody, but they're still trying to get everything unpacked in the boxes. And the 4 ladies just wandered up in their bathing suits looking for a place to hang out, which I thought was pretty funny.
David sure is a trooper, isn't he? I mean, the guy's always smiling. He's always friendly. You could tell he is a seasoned pro. He's done this a long time. He knows what he's. I don't think they could have gotten a better hire than that guy. He is a true believer. He knows exactly what he's doing. And did everybody get through the line or drive through and get their 25% discount? We went through in the golf cart and signed up for ours that they were doing in the Port of Cachet there the other day. I think it was Sunday. Yesterday they were doing it. So go online and sign up if you got the 33931 zip code on your driver's license and get your discount.
Yep. And just one more detail so people know, because parking always came up at the meeting again today, but not specifically to this. It's $10. It's public parking at Margaritaville too, based on availability, I'm sure, but you can park for $10 for up to 3 hours. You can park for the day for $25, and you can park overnight for $35. So keep that in mind if you're on the island and there's availability at the resort, because we're trying to find places for people to park on Saturday. We're expecting a big crowd for the first show with the guests that we have. And Lynn Hall Park will be open again by Saturday for parking, according to Betsy, who I talked to today.
They had most of that was down today. There was a little section left is left to come down. So hopefully they have that down. They cleaned up. They had it down, but they said it's a mess to clean up.
And Lynn Hall Park is $2 an hour to park, and they have an app just like the town does. So there's plenty of, as Mike from the Whales said,
same app, though.
No, there's like 1,000 parking spaces within that small area, whether it's a private or
911 to be specific.
Speaking of parking,
yeah.
So what do you think? You're talking about it getting busy and people coming back. What can the town do? What's the town thinking about parking?
Well, I don't know that there's really not a plan in place to build any kind of parking garage, but I think the first step is to have the conversation about what can we do through our land development code that's going to entice those that are in the parking garage business? I think it's going to have to be some sort of private partner, private public partnership to make it happen. Accumulating the land. There are a couple spots, as Councilor Veach mentioned it today, that could work on the island. There are private business owners that, if we could get them on board and work with someone that knows what they're doing about building these, and the town has some land that we can make this work. I think it's something we have to seriously look at, because although, some of the restaurants like the Whale or Salty Crab that were talked about today that don't, or Mr. Waves, the places that don't have any parking, doesn't mean that we don't have a parking issue that we have to really take a look at. That people are going to come. Not everybody's going to come on a bike, unfortunately, and not everybody's going to walk. There are going to be people that come by car, and they have to have a place to park. So how do we address that? I think that we've all agreed that we want it on our upcoming MMP meeting to discuss it. What can we do through the code to change it? Currently, right now, in my opinion, there's nobody that's going to build a parking garage with the way the code is written and the buffers that are in place for that. It's just, there's not enough land to accumulate to make that possible. So looking at some of those things and addressing those through the land development code and changing them to hopefully bring somebody in that's willing to say, we can make this work. We can make it a financially viable situation for the town, for ourselves, for whoever owns the land. But we got to have to start having those conversations, not just on the island, but maybe just over the bridge. So
Dan, a couple of places when Councilman Veach brought it up today, where was he talking about? I couldn't get a idea.
So if you're coming down the bridge and you're turning right, like you're going to go towards Times Square, basically everything between north of Estero Boulevard and the Yucatan, that section there. So there's the I don't remember if it's called Winds, but it's right there in the corner, the t-shirt shop that's right there in the corner. Everything behind that, the town has land back there, has right of way back there, and then there's a privately owned lot there. So it's something that I've talked about in the background quite a while. It makes a lot of sense in that location. It's an area where you could come off the bridge, never touch Estero Boulevard. You could come in off the bridge. You could go into a parking structure there. You could exit out onto Old San Carlos, onto 3rd Street, onto 5th Street, and back on and over off the bridge, and never touch the bridge. Or potentially, depending on how you could design it, maybe you don't even have to touch the side streets. It's a lot further down the line and more engineering than I'm talking about. But that's the area that he was referring to today. It's an area that when former county manager Roger Gigelet and Dave, now county manager Dave Harner, were down, and we were looking at Lynn Hall Park, and at the time there was really no interest in doing an elevated parking structure there. But that section of the when we were walking out of that area, that caught their eye as well. So it's just one of the areas. Maybe there's other areas in the downtown district that will work for people to.
What about
to build a parking garage? But
what about that? Who owns that piece of property before you come behind where the county free lot is, toward the water? Before you come over the bridge on that right-hand side, I think it used to be a trailer park, but it's totally empty now. I mean, how perfect would that spot be? Is that a privately owned piece of property?
In front of what? Diversified?
Yeah.
I mean, between Diversified and Main Street, there is where you're talking. There's a parking area right off of Main Street there at the base of the bridge, and then there's a large space between that and Diversified. I don't know if that's individually owned, because I think the houses there were individually owned. So I don't know if it's you'd have to talk to a realtor. I don't know if that's one large section or two large sections that can be purchased, or if it has to be individuals that have to sell it off. That I don't know. But again, that would be a good spot for one. There's been talks about at Buttonwood, the light at Buttonwood, that corner area where the fishmonger used to be. That there's talks about that area. So again, but that's unincorporated Lee County, so I'm not exactly sure what the zoning requirements are for them to be able to do that. But in the downtown district, there's not a lot of land. I know some other people were looking at a smaller area just under the bridge to potentially do some sort of parking and retail underneath it. So there's talk going on in the background about people potentially doing it. As a town, if we could do everything we can do to make it easier for someone to be able to do that, that would help not just the community, but it would help them. I think those are talks that we have to have, and we have to make sure that we can make it as easy as possible for someone to want to come in and do it, because it's, concrete is expensive, and it's not, it's not a high return on your investment. At least I'm guessing there's probably not a lot of high return on your investment, but it's something that we're going to have an issue with going forward as we start building back. And, it's not going to be solved by one business owner having 54 parking spots or 17 parking spots. It's going to be solved by a bigger solution that I think we can look at and try to get something across the finish line.
What is your?
I mean, it's tough because the part of the problem too is getting even to the base of the bridge when, we remember back in the day where to get to the beach, the traffic would be backed all the way up to Pine Ridge or further. So it's a tough thing. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of changes that are going to be coming at the base of the bridge. The roundabout's coming, all the changes, over the bridge, the light at Main Street, all the changes that are going to happen over there. And there's a lot of changes coming. Now is the time to really try to dig in and see if we could come up with something that could maybe be incorporated into that design at the base of the bridge. So I think we're going to have those conversations. We'll make the changes that we can in the land development code and try to entice people to come in and invest. But again, there's a lot of, it's not just the town. It's someone that's willing to invest the money to build it. And it's the landowners that have the land. Are they willing to play ball or be part of it or develop it? I mean, there's a lot of conversations that have to be had, but I think we need to start having those sooner than later.
Is it lastly on this, is it your preference to have a parking garage on the island or off the island?
It could be both. I mean, we have to have one. I think whether it's on the island or off the island, I'm open to anything, quite honestly. It's if we can make it work on the island, that would be great. If we have to make it work off the island, that'd be great. Anything we can do to make it happen, I think we have to seriously look at.
All right. So Andy said something today that I didn't know if I understood what it was about. Maybe you can clarify. He said that the town is going to be taking requests for proposals for mowing and unsafe structures. Does that mean the town is now getting into the phase where if some of these people don't start doing their cleanup, you're going to do it for them?
Well, I guess that's the short version of it, but in order to take action after the letter or letters have been exhausted, in order to do that, you have to have a contractor in place to be able to do it. So we talked today about let's get an RFP out for contractors to do these things, so that those that choose to not take care of their properties and we have to go in and do it, we have a contractor in place. We have solidified the process that meets all the requirements that we need to meet, and we can hit the ground running as soon as these letters expire. So I know they were going to work on that today, and I would assume that there'll be an RFP out as soon as possible for those two. As you said, as Andy said, it'll be two separate things: one for the demolition and removal of things, and one for cleaning up a property, mowing yards, things like that. So I know that they're working on it with Becky, and we just want to make sure we're ready so that when it's time to be able to legally be able to do what we can do, we're going to do it.
About how many properties do you think are involved?
Hard to tell. The grass keeps growing everywhere every day. So, I mean, we can all walk around and drive around and see all the buildings that are still there, or bike around. Yep. And see all the, they probably just take your footage, Kim, and be able to just slow play it and spend an afternoon and be able to see every single structure. But I know that the staff has got a very good, I know Andy and Frankie drove around personally and took a lot of notes of properties that haven't been touched that need to be addressed. So there is a list. Letters have been sent out. Now it's time to get a little more aggressive. As much as we don't want to be heavy-handed, there's a time where those that choose not to do anything, that's the only thing that will maybe get a reaction. But they need to, people that are choosing to do that need to know that as a town, we're going to be very aggressive. We're going to be, at least in my opinion, we're going to be very aggressive in making sure we get these properties taken care of when we have exhausted all the measures that we have to legally exhaust, to let them know that they need to take care of their property, and we're going to get it taken care of. And if it means that we have to lien your property to do it, then I feel that we've been more than fair and lenient in giving people the opportunity to address it, or at least work with the town, at least communicate with us and let us know, here's where we're at. We're working on it and stay in communication. But there are some that are just choosing to not communicate with us at all.
I will say, though, on a positive note, talking about the bike around, I'm always surprised and comment often on people's, because there's some really nice properties.
Yeah.
And I feel like every time I'm
You see
out
more
riding the
green
bike,
grass than
yep,
ever.
and I go back into a section that I haven't been in, I'm more now I'm more surprised by how good it looks than the few that aren't looking so hot,
Good.
you know.
Well, that's good to hear. You know, and I've heard that from several people over the last week or 2 weeks that haven't been here for a few months, that were even at the concert last night. Someone was telling me how they haven't been here for a while, and they were really impressed with how clean it's gotten, much cleaner. So people are trying to do the right thing. They are trying to clean up, and they're working through the process that they have to work through to make sure that they've got the funding that they need to do it, or they've got their insurance proceeds, whatever. So people are trying to do the right thing, but you're like anything else, you're going to have the few people that don't want to do anything or refuse to do anything, and they don't feel that they have to do anything. And we're here to tell you that that is probably not the best course of action for you if you don't want to have your property lean, because we are going to take the measures that we need to take to get that property cleaned up and safe.
So is it a mix of residential and commercial?
Yes.
Okay. When did the letters expire? Do you know?
The first ones already have expired, and now it's more of a letter that is you've got 30 days to comply with this, or this is what we're going to do. And I believe that Becky is, if not done, real close to, she's working on it. I know that those letters, when they go out, there will be, I believe there's still got to be some discussion as to what the leeway is at the expiration. I think those letters have to be, they have 30 days, but after that, you can choose. My understanding of what I've been told is you can choose to offer a little bit of leniency for another week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is, or you can say at the end of these 30 days, if we don't know what your plan is, or you haven't shown us that you're doing anything, we're going to come in. You know, it all will depend on these RFPs too, when we can go through the process of securing the RFPs, putting it out for bid, picking a contractor, and then once they're in place, things are going to have to start happening.
So is there any property in Times Square that might be on the top of your list?
Well, we all know which property is on Times Square.
Yeah.
I would say, I won't say one is more important than the other. Times Square is obviously the most visible one that everybody sees the most. But we heard today, I think Terry said he's been working with the property owner to secure it with a chain link fence. And they talked to staff this morning about what they can do. So hopefully we'll be seeing something at least securing that property a little bit better than some snow fencing. To keep people from when we were down there for the Christmas tree thing, or so, when we were down there for the Christmas tree poinsettia tree, there were people that were lounging through that property, and the sheriff's department had to go over and have a talking to them. So
still so dangerous, that spot.
It is just so dangerous, and it's so many people have worked. I've said it so many times. So many people work so hard. Private property owners, business owners, people like yourself, people like myself, and the council and staff, and so many people have worked so hard to clean up and try to show that we're doing the right things and we're moving in the right direction. To have somebody get hurt, God forbid someone gets hurt, and it becomes a national news story or something, that could set us back so far. And it's for something that's so easily controllable to get cleaned up and to make your property safe. That's all we're asking, is to make it safe, not just for our benefit, but for your benefit. And again, I've said it before, if you own the property, you would think it'd be in your best interest to make sure nobody can get hurt on that property. These properties aren't cheap. I wouldn't want to be sued.
My guess,
if someone got hurt,
My guess is that piece of property right there is the most dangerous piece of property on the island right now. Not only because the chunks of cement are still sitting the way they were after the storm, but because that is where most of the people are curious. And I know people can say it's private property, stay off it, but you can walk right up the steps off the beach onto the broken cement. You can do that. You have been able to do that. And so that's why I say that.
Well, that's certainly one of the properties, but there's several other commercial properties that are sitting there with no fences around them. That the only difference between that property and some of the other ones that I'm thinking about, that one doesn't have a roof over it. Some of these other ones, people are walking through these buildings. I see it almost every day, walking through these buildings where the roofs are about to collapse on themselves. Nothing's being done. That's to me, that's part of that's asinine. Why is it like that? And you would put some fencing up, do something, because God forbid that building just decides it's going to collapse on that person
Yeah.
that happens to be walking through. I just couldn't imagine. I couldn't live with myself knowing that I didn't do everything that I could do to try to prevent that from happening. Because
Even
you know,
if
people
you're
are going
on
to do
a
stupid
borough.
things. People are going to do stupid things, and
There are some
You-
properties though that really have gone above and beyond with the chain link fence to keep
oh, absolutely,
trespassers out.
absolutely.
And then you got like the Junkanoo building. It's like that's one of the ones that looks today like it could fall on somebody. The old Junkanoo building, not the new one.
There's several. There's some that have secured doors and made sure that there's no way to get into places. But then there's some that are just wide open that
Yeah.
we pass every day on Estero Boulevard. And
Yeah.
you just shake your head and wonder why is nothing being done? Why? I don't know that anybody could give me a good reason right now as to why they haven't done at least something to secure these properties.
Yeah, and no offense to God or anything, but Chapel by the Sea is one of those buildings where it's totally wide open. I mean, they've never put a fence up that stayed. If they did, I mean, I know it's probably a different situation with money wise, but still, I mean, still your responsibility. If you own the property, it's wide open.
Chain link fencing is not that expensive. To me, there's no reason why you can't secure your property with some sort of fencing that of course, people could climb the fence and jump in, but that's at least doing something. It's not any person that's walking down the road, a child, anybody could just walk into some of these buildings. And again, God forbid that a roof collapses or a beam falls when the person happens to be walking through these buildings. It's just, it makes me cringe every time I think about it.
So just lastly on this, because this is definitely a story I want to write for tomorrow. If let's say you go through the process and somebody does get work done, you mow their lawn or you knock their building down, you're obviously going to charge that. I mean, right up front, the taxpayers of the beach have to pay for that. But eventually I'm guessing you're going to try and figure out a way to extract that money from the property owner and get taxpayers paid back.
Yeah. And this is, I haven't had a chance to talk to Becky with exactly how it works, and I'm sure there's a couple different scenarios that you can do. You could go in. I would assume you could go in, do the work, and put a lien on the property right away, which to me is the fastest way to get somebody to either pay you or at least now there's a stake the town has in that property. It's not going anywhere until that lien is paid. But yes, the taxpayers would have to foot the money to get these properties cleaned up. But there's going to be repercussions. And if when it comes to a decision that we have to make, I'm going to be my opinion is going to be whatever is the fastest way to get it done, and the heaviest handed it can be to the property owner that has chosen not to communicate or do anything with their property.
So really, it sounds like the top of the list are the people that got the letter, didn't respond, didn't get back to the town, didn't make any effort to communicate with the town, to at least tell the town, hey, I'm waiting for insurance. I got a demo guy coming in. It's just got a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm guessing, right? The people that have ignored you.
As far as I'm concerned, yeah. I mean, if you're choosing to ignore something, no, there have been some people that, went to the wrong address, whatever. That's why you do multiple rounds of it. But between your show, what we've put out, what's been covered on the news, there's been a hurricane. Your property. If you haven't seen your property, there's been damage to it. Every structure had some damage to it. So there really, to me, is no excuse to say I didn't know my grass was growing. I didn't know my structure was unsafe. I didn't know. You can get a hold of anybody at the town anytime you want. You can email me anytime you want. You can email any council member anytime you want to ask, what should I do? But if you haven't chose to do any of those things, you're going to be at the top of the list.
Gotcha. All right, we got one more topic, and we'll let you roll. This whole thing, this whole Terry Prasad proposed settlement was on the agenda. It's off the agenda. He sends a proposal. I think the town prepared a counter proposal, and he gets up there, of course, and plays the victim, and things got to get done, and he needs to sit down with you, and he needs to. It's like, what's going on? First of all, is he operating an illegal parking lot in his restaurant property according to the town? Is that illegal?
That's it. That is, at the crux of what the conversation, why it wasn't talked about today. Okay. We want to make sure the thing that the town wants is they just want him to be compliant. And if he's compliant, if our code enforcement officers, if he's in compliant with everything, then we can talk about settlements and we can talk about that. But there was some discussion today as to maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Maybe it's not just that property; it's all the properties that are associated under that LLC, which includes the Junkanoo properties, which includes all these other. So the staff didn't have the answer this morning that I asked, or that I think Becky, excuse me, that Becky asked. So to try to talk about a settlement, if he's not in compliant, what is the point of having a settlement? But if he is in compliant, let's have that conversation. So I will say over the last few weeks, Terry has been very good with communicating with staff. He's been very good about taking care of the things that are in the land development order that he has to take care of. But there is still just a couple unanswered questions. So we're very close to having the conversations. We all want this to be resolved. But at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that if you resolve something, it's not going to start the next day, right? You're not going to, you fix one problem only to have it start again the next day. I fixed the bleeding on my finger, but now it's bleeding again the next day because I didn't do it right. So we just want to make sure that everything is in compliance, that he needs to be in compliance with. And if he is, we'll sit down, we'll have those conversations, we'll take the vote, and hopefully we can put this to bed for everybody.
Okay. So just for people that don't know, the town has a lien on, I think, several of Terry Prasad's properties, including the one in Times Square. And you've been going back and forth with trying to settle this. He's got $2 million in fines on the books right now that you're trying to work through. But I guess still, to answer the question, that parking lot that he has there, and the reason I ask this is because there are many legal parking lots that if his parking lot is illegal, he's taking money from, and that's not fair. Is that parking lot illegal on?
I honestly, I don't know. That was one of the questions I asked. Is he in compliance today with everything that he has to be in compliance with? Because if he's not, I'm not ready to have the conversation on a settlement. So as long as all of those things are answered and staff could say, yes, he's in full compliance, then let's have these conversations about, let's get this settled so we can all move forward. Nobody wants this to drag on any longer than it has to. But you have to make sure, the whole point of code violations is that people come into compliance. So I know he's taken many strides to fix a lot of the things that were an issue, but there's still one or two things that we need a couple answers on. And as soon as we get those, we'll have those conversations and hopefully be able to finish this.
I guess what I don't understand is that nobody can answer the question when I ask it a million times in the same way. Like, is that a parking lot illegal? It really was supposed to be a parking lot for his customers. And there are no customers anymore. So that's and the only reason I ask is because you got these, like you got Norms and you got the other ones down the street that are in total compliance with all their permitting and things like that. And if that's an illegal parking lot, he shouldn't be able to do that. And so nobody be able to answer whether that's a legal or illegal parking lot.
And this is why we have legal representation. Becky, this has been going on for 7 years, 6-7 years.
I know.
She doesn't, she's really engrossing, herself in the background to try to get caught up on the speed, where this is at, how we got here, what is it with the compliance that he's not doing, and what is he is. She's working hard to get caught up to speed, but she needs a couple answers. So as soon as we get the answers that we asked this morning,
Gotcha.
We'll look at this agreement and we'll move forward.
All right. So did we miss anything that, I don't want to cut you off if you had something that we didn't ask about, but usually we're pretty thorough?
Yeah, no, I think we covered, we covered all the big stuff. That's, obviously the New Year's Eve celebrations coming up with the fireworks and
yeah,
we're really looking forward to having that back.
Bike parade.
People be cautious. I think as a public service reminder, the bike parade is, the 16th. That's going to be coming up. So there'll be plenty of information going out between what you post. We'll post it on the Facebook page for the annual Christmas Carol bike caroling. The band will be playing in Bayside Park. The new light at Crescent. I want to talk about that for just a second.
All right.
So there's a light there with crosswalks that when the light's red and the crosswalk says you can cross, you can cross. It doesn't mean you're just going to cross anytime you want. That's the whole point of having the light in the crosswalk. And I think some of the traffic backups we're seeing are because people just feel they can walk out in that crosswalk anytime that they want to. So the lights are there. Press the button. Let the traffic flow. That's what it's supposed to do. When the light's red, you cross when the light's red, and you do We've all been in crosswalks before. We know how they work. You don't, I don't know legally that you have to stop just because it's a crosswalk. And some people, I had a lady today get very angry with me because I didn't stop for her. I had a green light and she wanted to cross the crosswalk and I didn't stop. I had a green light and she had a couple one finger salutes for me, but
what?
But
Well,
that's
And
but
flip the
that-
mayor off.
Yeah, when I was
But
leaving on
that's-
Sunday, though, that two
It's
people
crazy.
were walking, and I had the green light, and so I
It's gonna
slammed
take a
on the
lot.
brakes, and then the guy's like, "Just go."
Well, you know
go." And
why?
I'm like,
Because people are
got the green light.
people are not used to that section of
Right.
of being organized. And so the other thing too is the drivers should not stop at a green light because they see somebody waiting to cross. I mean, it works multiple ways.
No, but you also don't. I mean, I don't know. If
I was
people are
standing
paying
now.
attention.
Now the other thing about that crosswalk
Exactly.
situation is it's a deaf person can hear that thing going off. I mean, the thing
Yeah.
talks to you. Wait, it tells you to wait, tells you to wait, then it tells you to walk, which is I've never seen that before, heard that before, but it helps everybody. I mean, and you really should not like the drivers shouldn't stop and the walkers you need to start following the directions and the traffic will flow better. I mean, one time I was
Right.
standing
It's a
there,
learning curve. It's a learning
Yeah.
curve for sure.
one time I was standing there, car stopped for me. I'm like, no, your light is green. I'm gonna wait and let you
Right.
go through the green light so I don't stop traffic. It's gonna be one of those things that takes some time, but the traffic has been backed up quite a bit from that light.
I would say over the last week, it seems to be flowing a little bit better. It is backed up, but it's not that dead stop and then you move a little bit and then he's dead stop. It seems to be it's a slow roll, so at least you're still moving. It's not that dead stop.
Yeah.
So what normally would take you, if you're backed up to Publix, what normally would take you an hour and 15 minutes is now taking 20 minutes or 25 minutes because you are moving, you are rolling, and you are, you're not at a dead stop. So it is causing some, I don't know if that's specifically what's causing the traffic. Season, we've got people coming into town that, never been here or looking and driving 10 miles an hour when they should be doing 25 or 30. So, it's a combination of both, but I have noticed that even though traffic is backed up, it was backed up to our street today. It was just south of Publix, but the traffic flowed. It was 20 minutes to get to the north end of the island, where if it's backed up to our street, we don't even leave the house. We just come back in or we go south because it's you're going to be sitting in traffic for an hour and 15 minutes to get off the island. So it is rolling, it is moving. And I think as the construction finishes up around Times Square or around Margaritaville, where they're pouring the sidewalks and that kind of stuff. And
Yeah,
fixing
looks
that lane,
great.
I think once
Oh,
that
great.
stuff's out of the way, and they're pouring the concrete. So it is going down Crescent and you're having to, go around a little bit. So there are some minor delays there, but once that's done and things are open and they're flowing, then let's take a true litmus test to see, what is it doing now? And then we can go from there.
All right, Dan, we'll let you roll. We will see you bright and early in the morning at the beach school and probably at Margaritaville Wednesday or Thursday Thursday for the ribbon cutting at 1:00. And I appreciate your time. And next Sunday, we'll see you live at Wahoo Willie's.
All right. We'll see you then. Thanks, guys.
Thank you a lot. Mayor Dan Allers, everybody. We appreciate it. Before you guys bust out, we do have a couple of updates, but also want to make sure that if you have a chance to check out Power Block Builders, they're one of our great sponsors. Oscar Jr. is the licensed general contractor and roofing contractor. Oscar Sr., which would be Oscar Jr.'s dad, is the mason by trade with over 35 years of concrete experience. And they're just a great company to work with if you're rebuilding your home on Fort Myers Beach or anywhere for that matter. You can give them a call. They're sitting outside their building right now waiting for you to call as operators stand by at 239-849-1919. 239, Rhonda knows what the deal is, 849-1919, or you can check them out on their website, powerblockbuilders.com. Speaking of sitting out in his car all night with his puppy, Jorge Barrera is one of our sponsors tonight. And this is one of his raving reviews. He has so many, so they're hard to pick from. We originally met Jorge at his open house. He took time to listen and understand that his listing wasn't for us. He immediately assessed our needs and put a plan in place that met our needs and our family. He was very responsive and found us the perfect home. He was on top of every part of closing to make sure it happened on time. He went above and beyond with us and still does. And we surely recommend Jorge Barrera right now. So give Jorge Barrera a call. I don't have his phone number with me right now, but I'm sure you can find it online. Just Google Jorge Barrera and all those positive feedback comments will come up. And thank you all for your comments on Jillian's painting of the octopus. She sold it, so that was nice. And she has more in the works. So we'll let you know what she has next. And maybe we'll even put those on our shop page. We've got all our hoodies coming in. I got our yellow shirts. We got our teal shirts coming in this week. And everything will be ready for Saturday's big show at Margaritaville. And I did want to pop up here so you guys can see that they have also put together a special drink menu for our followers, everybody that comes to the show. This is for Beach Talk Radio followers only. These will be the specials. You asked for these drink specials, and they delivered them to you. So thank you to those folks. Now on Saturday, License to Chill restaurant opens at 7 for breakfast. The bar opens at 9. The show is at 10. And we have Mary and Tom Torgerson, John and Tracy Damerman, and Dave Cesario, the general manager, lined up for Saturday's first show. All I can say is if you're coming, arrive early. And tomorrow in the newsletter, we will have some parking options and prices for you to look at. So you have places to park when you come to the show on Saturday. Now over to you, dear, for final thoughts and words of wisdom.
I don't know. Do we want to talk about the sponsor thing or no?
The sponsor thing?
Sometimes we get questions about the definition.
Oh, you
of
wanted
what
to talk about that. Go right ahead.
So,
Make it quick, though, because we're boring people right now.
so
You
when
look like
we
you're
say-
slouching a little bit, though. Why do you look slouchy?
So when we or you say sponsors, that means typically, like these guys, they're buying advertising on the show, on the website, on the walk around, on the bike
newsletter.
around. Sometimes someone might use the word sponsor, and it would mean that they've donated money for like the races that we do that raise money, or for the things for Rose, or the other things you've done to raise money. So it can have two meanings. But for those who are asking, the sponsors of the bike around, the walk around, anything to do with the show, that's advertising.
That goes in our pocket. That goes in our business bank account to help pay for the business.
The other,
The expenses that we have and to pay my salary.
I keep you in this cushy way of life you have.
And the coffees also go into, they're part of our, how we try and make a business. And so for some reason, people ask.
There's a lot of philanthropic stuff.
Yes.
Mostly
Like, I can give you a great example.
If somebody's so interested, we can do a list.
Well,
for
I'm
the
not doing
last
the list
5 or
because
6
you'd
years.
make me do the list. But for example, the 5K race, which now has 273 registrations of walkers and runners, 100% of all the sponsorship money from that race, minus the T-shirt sales that we have to buy T-shirts, we have to buy medals.
You got to buy food for the runners afterwards.
Actually, that's donated. Some of it might be purchased, but that's donated. That'll be donated. 100% of whatever's left over is given to the women's club this year. We've given money in the last 2 races to FMB Strong. And so that money will go to the Fort Myers Beach Women's Club. So things like that. The money that was raised the other day for the pitching machine went to the Little League. So, I mean, I try and be as transparent so people understand, like, coffee goes to the business. A sponsor on the newsletter or the website or the show is part of the business. I don't mean to confuse anybody, but if you need to see the records, I'm pretty good at keeping these things separate. So to answer that person's question who sent the email wanting to know the specifics of the business, you got it now, bro. We're all up to date. So thanks again to our friend. You could check out our Etsy page, Elena Saracita, for sending in these 3 really cool tree ornaments with our logo and the Fort Myers Beach clock and the poinsettia tree on the post, which is now probably right below this show. You can go on her Etsy page and buy some of these. All right, Debbie, I posted your picture, Debbie. I posted your picture of the black hoodie, I believe, earlier today. So
The picture, somebody bought a couple of towels on Sunday and then they have them draped over their lanai chairs, and they're using them to cover their lanai chairs. And that was just, it looked nice. And
Yeah.
I
You don't want to
explained
use it on the
everybody,
beach.
so very decorative. They're not like bath towels that you're going to absorb water. They're very decorative in nature.
All right. Thank you all for tuning in. And we will see you tomorrow morning live from the beach school at 9:00 for the press conference and the ribbon cutting. Thank you all for everything. We love you. Bye-bye.